DocTalk is brought to you by MERCK Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We got a great show. We got a friend and colleague of mine going to be on here today. His name is Dr. Randall. He's a veterinarian in Ashland, Kansas. He is a tremendous resource for me. He's a tremendous resource on all things cattle. And we got him today, and it's going to be a great show. So just stay tuned, and thanks for being here on DocTalk with us.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson, here with my friend and colleague, Dr. Randall. And I tell you what, to get Dr. Spare on the show is just a pleasure and a treat for me. Dr. Spare has been the owner and operator of Ashland Veterinary Center in Ashland, Kansas, but he's one of those that truly understands veterinary medicine, beef production, the role of the bovine practitioner. He is a national treasure, and he's up for vice president of AABP right now, so you need to go vote for him. But Dr. Spare, I just want to say thank you so much for all you do.
Well, thanks, Dan, and it's just such an honor to be a part of your show, and you do a tremendous job for veterinary medicine throughout the country and the world. In fact, we appreciate the fact you promote veterinary medicine.
Well, we're all in this together, and farmers, ranchers, everybody needs veterinarians, and so that's what we're working on. And so let's talk a little bit, because you work with a lot of producers and with a lot of cattle across this country. And so one of the things we wanted to kind of talk about today was communication, and whether it's on the farm or with the veterinarian or things to that nature. What are some things that you see or maybe observed throughout the years as far as communicating with the veterinarian?
Our responsibility as a veterinarian, and oftentimes we might think that, the only time I take something to veterinarian is if I really have a problem, a cow that's calving or a water belly or a prolapsed. And, one of the things that I think that those veterinarians that are successful in their job and meeting the public are those veterinarians that understand that their job is an inconvenient task. In other words, we have to do things when it's not easy for us. Yeah, we'd like to operate by a schedule, and we'd like to go to work at 8 and stop at noon and maybe even go back at 1 o'clock and quit at 5. Well, that's not the case in rural America today. And Dan, I've done my job for nearly 35 years. And the fall of the year today is the days that I just enjoy what I do, because I get to be outside, I get to touch a cow, and most importantly, I get to interact with people. And I could use an example of today. I was working with a producer that he's farms quite a bit, and he's got cows, and some of them weren't very pregnant. In fact, there was one group that 28 of them weren't pregnant out of 31, and I said, so what are your goals? So in other words, instead of standing there with my arms crossed and saying, and you messed up, he was feeling pretty bad. So we were going to work out of the situation. So I asked him, I said, what can we do to help you out of this? What are your goals and what are the resources? So I think one thing that as veterinarians that's important for us is to understand each producer. And I understand that they're all different. They may all have different clothes, different pickups, different this or that, but I have to understand what their goals are. So asking questions is so important.
Well, I think that gets us started off in a great, great way. And if you can understand what we're going to talk about today is something you need to understand about communicating, whether you're a veterinarian or a producer, how we're going to do this together. We got Dr. Randall Spare here on DocTalk today. I sure hope you enjoy it. Hey folks, Dr. Dan here. Welcome to Cattle First, as sponsored by Boehringer Ingelheim Vet Medica. And the term today, biosecurity. Biosecurity is security. It's like having a bouncer that keeps pathogens out and keeps disease out of your herd. One of the best tools you can use for biosecurity is a proper vaccination program, and work with your veterinarian on that. The second one is introduction of new animals. And when we bring new animals on the farm, making sure that if there's a disease that is important that we test for, that we have that done prior to bringing them on the premise. And if they haven't been, then we have a place to quarantine them until we can get the diagnostics back, I think is vitally important. Talking to your neighbors as cattle lean across the fence and communicate with each other, making sure that you have a community-wide biosecurity plan and vaccination plan, vitally important. Keep the disease out, be the bouncer.
When you're in the cattle business, no matter how much it's a business, it still starts with cattle. It's this basic notion that sits at the core of how we approach things at Boehringer Ingelheim. We understand when you put the cattle first, it just naturally leads to doing the right things. If you want to do well in this business, you start by doing right. Take care of the cattle, and they'll take care of you.
The state of Iowa and Iowa State University are proud to host the 2021 Beef Improvement Federation Annual Research Symposium and Convention. The convention will be located in downtown Des Moines with easy access to the airport, hotels, and local restaurants. Iowa State University is just north with its research and teaching farms. Join us in Iowa and experience how Iowa provides the beef industry with innovation to application.
ValleyVet.com is your one-stop shop for your every animal need. From prescription meds, vaccines, equipment, and more for the ranch to the show ring. Shop ValleyVet.com for fast shipping and great prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here. And we're teleporting. We got COVID, but thank goodness for technology. I get to see my friend and colleague, Dr. Randall Spare, down there in Ashland, Kansas, who represents our industry and represents the veterinary profession just so well. Dr. Randall, there at Ashland Veterinary Center, y'all service so many people, and you talked a little bit off camera about generational differences. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So yes, Dr. Dan. We've been in Ashland nearly 30 years, and we've been in this geographic area nearly 35. So started working, there was many grandfathers that were, let's say they were 65 or so, and their sons were working with them. And now the the grandfathers have passed away, and the fathers are 70. And so you got that next generation that are 40. And it's so important, Dan, that I don't come and communicate at the same level of communication I did with their father, because I have to remember that I had a base of understanding and a base of communication with those people. And now I have to ask those same questions. What are your goals and what are you wanting to accomplish? And maybe they're financial goals have changed. Maybe their risk goals have changed. Maybe they don't want to vaccinate for as many things. Maybe they want to feed differently. Economics have driven things. They're changing. So I have to be willing to ask those questions and understand. So those generational changes are some of the hardest that I have. I have the fortune of having a number of veterinarians in our practice that are younger, and I don't have to be all things to all people all the time. And I can ask younger veterinarians to go service those younger producers. But Dan, it's imperative that we as veterinarians serve those people, because they're going to produce food for the next generation. They produce protein.
So when we start to think about this, and you think about dealing with it, going from one generation to another as a veterinarian, what are some of the things that will you sit down and say, look, now you're taking over on this. It's time for us to sit down to have this kind of discussion, to plan, because as we go through the next two segments, it's going to be important to kind of get to some of those services that you're offering to people now that maybe you didn't offer to others.
That's certainly right. And I've found that, and I've made those mistakes, Dan, and I didn't have that conversation. And that's the nice thing today about email. I can email several generations at one time when I get done with a report. Maybe I've done some necropsies on the place and I was there late at night and there's nobody else was around. So I come back and I might talk to the owner, the original owner and the father, but then I email the next generation so they understand where we're at.
Yeah, and I think that's what, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about, what the role of the veterinarian, some of the things that you're offering, some of the things that I think people are missing, because it used to be that fire engine Saturday night thing, and now we're talking about genetics, we're talking about breeding, we're talking about planning, we're talking about all these things considered. So folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more with Randall Spare in Ashland, Kansas. You're watching DocTalk.
Some call it a come from behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
The state of Iowa and Iowa State University are proud to host the 2021 Beef Improvement Federation Annual Research Symposium and Convention. The convention will be located in downtown Des Moines with easy access to the airport, hotels, and local restaurants. Iowa State University is just north with its research and teaching farms. Join us in Iowa and experience how Iowa provides the beef industry with innovation to application.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
ValleyVet.com is your one-stop shop for your every animal need. From prescription meds, vaccines, equipment, and more for the ranch to the show ring. Shop ValleyVet.com for fast shipping and great prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here at Iowa State University, and we have beamed up Dr. Randall Spare. And he's a friend and a colleague down there at Ashland, Kansas, with Ashland Veterinary Center, providing service all over Southwest Kansas, and just a national icon to veterinary medicine. I'm proud to call him a friend. Again, He's up for vice president of AABP, and I know the vote's on, so we're drumming up votes for you, Dr. Randall. You're a great leader.
Thank you, Dan.
Talk to us a little bit about services and things that you are providing for your producers. I know you got a pretty fun story about this.
So, Dan, one of the things that we talk about more than anything today is genetics and EPDs and our understanding. And I just got to tell how that all started. In 1992, I had a ranch that had 130 heifers, and they were 45 miles away. And I literally did 10 cesareans, and I don't know how many calves that they pulled. And we were about done with calving. And I said, sir, it doesn't have to be this way. Well, I can't afford a bulls that we know the EPD's on. And I said, let's do the math. I think you can. So through that, Dan, that particular ranch today calves out 130 heifers, and they check them once a day, and their death loss is minimal. And so I call that the Columbus method of calving, where you go out and discover them every day. But we can do that because of known quantity genetics. And if we can have an influence on birth weight genetics, then we can also have an influence on maternal height, growth, obviously carcass weight, and we can start to talk about those things. And that, Dan, that's evolved into areas of how do you want to market those. So we have people today that breed all their heifers. I recommend that we breed them all. And we may AI them, turn the bull in on them with them, and then we'll come back and ultrasound them 30 days later. So they have cattle they're going to breed early. And you know what? They have more cows than they need, so they start selling middle-aged cows. And those middle-aged cows will have genomic information on them. So just like when you buy your little Ford Mazda pickup that you're going to drive, you know exactly how it's going to work. These cows do the same thing today. In fact, we have a sale coming up in a few days that a number of our producers in Oklahoma, Arizona, are going to offering to sell. And we help to orchestrate those coming alongside another seed stock producer. So, Dan, we as veterinarians can be as instrumental and make more difference in the area of genetics. We have to understand medicine. We have to understand vaccine. We have to use products judiciously. Those are givens. But that other portion that we can be involved in, and people need to ask their veterinarians, what about EPDs? Dan, we don't need to be pulling calves today. Pulling calves, doing cesareans, we have more death loss. We have decreased colostral intake. Those cows aren't going to breed back as well, and we're going to have more fallouts. Genetics has an opportunity to vault you forward even more so. So that's a fun thing I talk about all the time.
Well, that's just perfect timing, Dr. Randall, because that took us right up to our commercial break. Folks, if you're not using your veterinarian to the fullest potential, you're leaving money sit on the table. And these people are educated. They're spending time at the right meetings, at national conventions. And the whole purpose of today's show is to show you someone that is providing exemplary veterinary care for his clients, Dr. Randall Spare. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up with Dr. Spare in Ashland, Kansas. You're watching DocTalk.
When you're in the cattle business, no matter how much it's a business, it still starts with cattle. It's this basic notion that sits at the core of how we approach things at Boehringer Ingelheim. We understand when you put the cattle first, it just naturally leads to doing the right things. If you want to do well in this business, you start by doing right. Take care of the cattle, and they'll take care of you.
Beef Teaching Farm is a place where producers,
entrepreneurs,
faculty,
innovators,
consumers, and most of all, our students
have an opportunity to learn.
We strive for excellence in the beef business and provide an environment for others to engage in production agriculture.
Through teaching, advocacy, and hands-on instruction,
we can grow the next generation of beef producers.
We are the Iowa State University Beef Teaching Farm.
ValleyVet.com is your one-stop shop for your every animal need, from prescription meds, vaccines, equipment, and more for the ranch to the show ring. Shop ValleyVet.com for fast shipping and great prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Randall Spare. I'm at Iowa State University, and my friend Dr. Randall is down at Ashland Veterinary Center in Ashland, Kansas. So Dr. Randall, when we start to think about this, if you were going to sit out there and talk to a veterinarian, you're a producer, and you're going to use a veterinarian, what would be some topics that you would put out in front?
So Dan, the most common thing that people want to know is, what do I vaccinate my cattle with? And I think that's an important question to ask. So the veterinarian needs to come back and ask you, so what are the risks that you want to assume? So we have to talk about, involved in the health management is biosecurity. We have to talk about BBD. We have to talk about where they get their cows, where they buy their bulls. We need to know those things. And the more of an open book a producer can be with their veterinarian, then the better progress that they can make in their relationship. You want a veterinarian that goes home and sleeps on those problems and thinks about it, and then comes back and say, I was thinking about this. What about these things? And they need to be asking their veterinarian about, what is the health management tools available so that we can create, every day needs to be a good day in the life of that calf. Well, Dan, one thing I've learned over 35 years is I can create a vaccination program that's perfect. But if we don't feed those cows appropriately, and a veterinarian, when they're out there preg checking in the fall of the year, in fact, Dan, we often have veterinary students with us, and one of the things I say, you know what, today we're going to go put our hands in those cows, and we're going to find if they're pregnant, and we're going to see if they're pregnant early. But the other thing is we can observe is, what's the body condition of those cows? You know, if we understand body condition, that influences reproductive rate, which influences colostral intake, which includes, the other thing it includes is fetal programming in that calf. Then we can help that producer get those cows to breed back early. They're going to have a calf that gets up and is vigorous. So we have to be able to talk about health and nutrition, and then also make sure there's some facility design. We can watch how cattle are handled. I enjoy going to these ranches anymore that there's about 4 of us working 400 cows in a day, and they just work through smoothly because they've done it smarter. And nobody has a weapon, a hot shot or a paddle. We talk quietly. So that is so important. Temperament is so important on the future productivity of that calf. So you need to be asking your veterinarian about health, about how to feed those cattle. And we as veterinarians need to understand what's the protein supplement for the winter months and what's available to them. And be able to talk about, should we feed a 40% cake or 20% cake or alfalfa, and be able to show a producer what it costs per pound of protein. So often people will call me up and say, Randall, I can buy this cake for this amount. Well, we as veterinarians understand and can help build that ration. In fact, I have a son that's coming back and being part of our work. And I've said, Mark, can you be a part of looking into this nutrition for us? So I don't have to do it all. And that's one of the things the hard things for me is handing it over and delegating it. So, Dan, I think that really sums it up, and I appreciate the opportunity to visit. And one of the things that I enjoy what I do every day, the hardest part is we've had more veterinarians to our practice. Those I don't get to see those people that brought me to the dance, so to speak, 31 years ago and gave me the opportunity.
Well, folks, you can see why we had him on the show today. Dr. Randall, thank you so much for all you do for all of us. And thank you for watching DocTalk. Remember, if you want to find out more about us, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Always work with your local veterinarian. I'm here with Dr. Randall Spare. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson, and we'll see you down the road.
DocTalk is brought to you by MERCK Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.